shows up. Is it recording? It looks like it's recording on my.
Yeah, it says Ryan is recording the call. Yeah.
All right, sweet. All right, so Alex, you can go ahead and let all the Illini listeners here know here at Illini Pulse where you write for, what you cover, and of course, Illinois football plays at UConn, the first road game for Illinois this year, and the second home game for UConn. So, Alex, go ahead and let everybody know where you work and what you do.
Sure. I am the UConn football beat writer for the Hartford Courant in Hartford, Connecticut, among other roles. But yeah, I cover the Huskies, which is a harrowing job at times. But yeah, looking forward to Saturday.
Yeah, me too. For a couple of reasons. Now, obviously, you're probably, you do football. Do you cover basketball too, or is it just football?
I'm not the main person on football. We've got some other people who do men's basketball and then women's basketball. So yeah, I mostly focus on football for
Okay, well, that's where you're the perfect person. I scoured social media. I scoured
now.
Google to find out. I read your article about some important thing here. So, of course, Illinois, 2:30 CBS Sportsnet. So 2:30 Central Time, 3:30 Eastern Time. Illinois plays in Hartford against the UConn Huskies, both 1-0. We were just joking about Randy Edsall's press conference. Uh, he made some strong comments. Some Illini fans may have taken it wrong, but you can clarify. So Randy Edsall, the UConn head coach, said that Illinois did well in the free agency. So people are like, oh, that's bulletin board material. You know Randy Edsall better than anybody who's going to be watching this, I can assure you. So how would you take what Randy Edsall said?
Well, Randy always likes to take jabs at the NCAA and various rules that he doesn't necessarily agree with. And in the past, he has an interesting relationship with the graduate transfer rule. I'll just say that. And I think if he were in charge of college football, you might not be able to transfer as a graduate transfer without sitting out a year because I think in a lot of coaches' views it creates kind of a free agency. So I understand that Illinois has some good graduate transfers, and so I think his jab, it was probably less at Illinois and more at the NCAA for kind of in his mind allowing a sort of free agent like system because some of UConn's better players are also graduate transfers, so it's not like he hasn't also taken advantage of that rule. But so I think that's kind of the background for that little comment.
All right. And I actually read your article about, pretty much that the underwhelming performance against Wagner. You wrote something about it. And I don't think Edsall's really liked some of the media. He hasn't really liked some of the media coverage that you guys have wrote about him. But to be honest with you, it's not your job to be friends. It's your job to be honest. He wasn't pleased with the offensive line performance against Wagner. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, and in practice as well. Yeah, he's been frustrated, even though that looked like the offensive line looked like a potential strength of the team going into the year.
So, what did you take away from the 24-21 victory over Wagner? I actually watched some highlights of it. It looked like UConn was in decently fairly control. They couldn't put Wagner away, but then Wagner scored, was it two on their final two, like 80-yard drives of the game, their final two. So that probably didn't encourage Ed so much. What did you take away from that game?
Well, so what you have to understand about UConn football is that the bar is pretty low because last year was just kind of a disaster all around. They set some records for points and yards allowed. I mean, it was really especially on the defensive end, one of the worst defenses in modern college football history. So that's kind of the backdrop of it. And with that in mind, I think most people are somewhat encouraged, even though Wagner is an FCS team. UConn's defense only allowed two touchdowns. Then there was a pick six. But so it feels like last year's team wouldn't have held anybody to two touchdowns of offense. So from a defensive standpoint, I think the performance against Wagner was pretty encouraging. On offense, they did an okay job of moving the ball, but they had some key turnovers in the red zone that really hurt them. Watching the game, it easily could have been a 20-point win, and instead it was a 3-point win. That pick six really hurt. There was another key turnover. They just didn't play well in the red zone. So, yeah, I think the score was kind of ugly against an FCS team to only win by 3, but I do think there were some positives to take away from the game.
Now, would you say? Well, you know what's funny you say that because I think UConn may have been the only defense worse than Illinois last year, and Illinois' defense was probably the worst in program history.
Hmm.
They gave up some 40. Actually, gave a 60-point game last year. It was pretty bad. So, but with Lovie Smith running the defense now, of course, Illinois held Akron to 3 points. The feeling around Champaign is this going to be a better defense. Now, Illinois had an elite offense last year and rushing attack. Could you tell if Randy Edsall's a weird, he knows what's coming to Hartford. I mean, Illinois has a potent offense. Could you tell or get a sense that he knows that obviously it's a different animal coming to Hartford than Wagner?
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. That was kind of the big conversation around UConn football with all the players today was this is a real challenge. I mean, they are taking seriously the fact that Illinois is a Big Ten team. I mean, we all know that right now with where Illinois is, it's not, Ohio State or something, but, it's a legitimate program. And I mean, for UConn to be competitive on Saturday, I think would count as like a pretty big achievement. They're saying what teams in that position always say, we're embracing being the underdog and that whole thing. But I definitely think that they take Illinois seriously, especially Illinois' offense, as a real dangerous matchup for them.
Now, so for Illinois fans, could you give me maybe three players, keys, maybe a couple offense or who? Obviously, was it Boudry, Baudry?
Baudry,
Yeah, three players. Illinois, needs to key in on or who offensively or defensively Illinois. They're the standout to the team. So for Illinois fans, who'll be watching the game Saturday.
Yeah, so UConn handed the ball off 53 times in their opener. And so that was to Kevin Mensah and Art Tompkins are the two running backs. And I think they're probably going to run the ball a whole lot once again against Illinois because Mike Baudry is the quarterback. There's some questions exactly. He needs to kind of show what he can do a little bit more than he has so far. So I think they're going to kind of default to running the ball. So Kevin Mensah and Art Tompkins are the two on offense who I think you're going to hear their name called a lot. Defensively, there are a couple guys. Travis Jones is a defensive tackle. He's 330 pounds, takes up a lot of space, but is also pretty quick. A good player, only a true sophomore. And then Tyler Coyle is a kind of speedy, athletic safety who is always was UConn's leading tackler last year and is always kind of a difference maker on D.
Now, is the UConn team taking the fact that they're a 21-point underdog at home to heart and kind of maybe saying, hey, let's take some pride in this? Because let me tell you, Illinois hasn't been favorited on the road by 21 points in a long time. So I think that maybe it's some respect for Illinois and what they did in week one, and maybe the fact that UConn was 1-11 last year. Of course, that's why you play the game to find out what's up with that. Because Illinois, let me tell you, Illinois had the spread was 17 at home against Akron. Illinois won by 39. Vegas is not trying to get beat up like they did last week. I think there was 3 people that bet $55,000 on Illinois to cover last week. They all won $50,000. So the spread started at 18 and now it's at 21. So any thoughts there of UConn players maybe saying, hey, wait a second, a 3-touchdown underdog at home?
Well, meanwhile, UConn was favored by 20 last week and won by 3, so I don't think they're trying to get beat up in that direction either. But yeah, I do think that players, they understand they're underdogs. I mean, the players who lived through last season, I think, they understand they've got to prove it. Nobody really owes them anything in terms of expectations. But Randy Edsall kind of issued that challenge today. He basically said at the press conference, but I'm sure he said the same thing to the team, like, you got to prove it. You have to, go out there and show that you show something, show that you have something, show that you're up for the challenge, of facing like a real legitimate Power 5 team. So it did kind of feel like, yeah, he's trying to motivate them that way. And I think they will be motivated. They're, like I said, kind of embracing being the underdogs.
Now, one last question for you. Of your professional opinion, how do you see maybe Saturday's game playing out? I can give my take, or you'll give your take, and we'll end it there. So, what's
Sure.
how do you see it playing out Saturday?
I've been saying 31-10 Illinois. I said that, even before.
So, the spread, or is it? It's just gonna.
I think I have them. I think I have Illinois covering narrowly, but I actually was saying that before the spread moved up to 20.5 or something. Maybe it's changed
Okay.
again since I last saw. Yeah, maybe. And hey, look, maybe UConn can put that on the bulletin board also. But with
Yeah.
how they played last year, I think until they really show that they've taken serious steps, I think you kind of have to bet against them a little bit. But we'll
All
see.
right. And you know what? I would say I feel Illinois is going to cover as well. I think if Boudry had maybe he can show that he's got more of an arm because he's going to need. Isn't it true? There's one thing that I did. One last thing I wanted you to. Didn't
Sure.
UConn weren't they missing a couple key players like a receiver or two
Yes, they were
and a
missing two
defensive
receivers.
tackle or
Yep.
something?
No, that's
And are they
exactly
all
right.
going to be eligible? Are they going to be able to play?
Yeah, so they're missing probably their two top receivers, or were last week. At least one of them will be back on Saturday, so that could make a difference. And Randy did say that they kind of changed their scheme, changed their play calling because of those injuries. So maybe they will throw the ball a little bit more, although I remain a little bit skeptical there. The situation with the defensive tackle is still up in the air. He's been suspended by the NCAA, but they're appealing the suspension and they're optimistic. But as far as I know right now, that hasn't been resolved.
Okay. All right. So I think Illinois is going to load the box, and I believe they're going to make Boudry beat him with his arm. So
Mhm.
Illinois has a NFL caliber cornerback, Nate Hobbs. He'll probably be on UConn's best wide receiver. So if Boudry can beat Illinois with his arm, it's going to be a close game. I can't sit here and say I know he's not. I just don't feel that's going to happen. I feel like, and Illinois' rushing attack too, it's one of the best in the nation. They put up 300 yards on Penn State. 300 plus on Maryland. I feel like Illinois is going to probably pound the ball as well. And with
Mhm.
grad transfer Brandon Peters, of course, from Michigan, if they try and stop the run, which they probably will load up on the box as well, Brandon Peters is an proven, can win Big Ten games with his arm. So I'm gonna say 38-14. I'm gonna say Illinois is going to cover it by about 24, a little bit
Yeah.
more than you. Yeah, I'm not going to get over here and say it's going to be 52-10. I'm not saying that because that's when I see that happen, then maybe I'll predict something like that in
Yeah.
the future. So.
Well, listen, last year UConn lost 8 games by 30 or more points, so nothing would surprise me.
All right. Well, hey, you know what? Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely.
This will be on all the social medias. You're gonna be the talk of the town now. They're gonna say, "Oh, did you see what Alex? Did you see Alex said we're gonna lose by 21?" So no. But thanks for your time. I'll tag you on Twitter and appreciate the time.
Absolutely, Ryan. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.